Hi, I'm Susan Sayre, founder and CEO of the Koa Club.
And I'm Mika Gobik, a life and leadership coach. Welcome to Koa Club TV.
Today, we are very pleased to have a wonderful, wonderful stylist and person, Melissa Mark. So Melissa is the founder and CEO of the Popland Style Direction, boutique styling company here in Seattle. So she has been doing styling women, making them look stylish and wonderful ever since 2013.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Thanks. I didn't even know that.
exactly. And again, it's with Malaysia here. She's going to talk to us not just necessarily about. We really would like to know more about her and what she does. But I also wanted to emphasize that with Malaysia, it is much more than just looking beautiful. It is the whole package.
Yeah, I was so excited that we would get Melissa here. Of course, we're wearing black, so just to be like non-committal here on the style front, but I am so into style as a tool to empower women. That's why I was so excited to have you here. So let's dive right into it.
Exactly, Melissa. So we're gonna have a bunch of different questions, and mostly because we really are very excited about all the wonderful things that you do for women. And I think, do you style men as well?
I do not. I mean, I do when I volunteer. So I volunteer styling homeless youth each month in a job program. And so I style men then, but otherwise I just style women.
Okay. And then just to get everybody started in terms of getting to know you, how did you become a stylist? How did you go into that career in the first place?
Do you know this story?
No.
It's so crazy. I'm like, really? That could take up our whole time. I have a background in philanthropy. So I have my master's in public administration and my whole life is philanthropy, but I was always that person who bought clothes for everyone. I would see shoes and be like, oh, she'd love this. And I would just ship her a box of shoes. And who doesn't know their friends' shoe sizes? And that's totally normal. So I was always really into that. And then long story short, I was very unhappy with my job. And I thought, well, I'll just go into public affairs or something tangential. And I went to see an employment coach. And not because I wanted to change careers. I actually just wanted someone to rewrite my resume. I was like, here, I'll pay you. You rewrite what I'm doing. And he just looked at it and he looked at me. I'm not even kidding you. In 5 minutes, he sized me up and he was like, yeah, you can't work for other people. And I was like, what? And then he's like, yeah. And he goes, are you people always asking you advice? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, in every aspect? And I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah, people want you to tell them what to do. And I was like, oh. And he goes, he's like, you know what? He's like, you either need an art form or a platform. So go figure out what you love. And then you need to start your own business doing that. And I was like, gay rights, human rights, women's rights. I was still down this whole path of helping people. And he was like, no. And he's like, what do you really love? What are you watching on TV when no one's looking? What magazines do you read? So I'm like, okay. So I went home and I thought about it for a while. I told my husband one day, I go, I think I want to be a personal stylist. And my husband goes, yeah, I've just been waiting for you to get there.
That's great.
And I was like, okay. And I'm like, well, but I don't want to work in retail. I mean, I was in my early 30s. I'm like, I'm not going to go. I have a kid. I'm not going to work weekends, whatever. And he's like, yeah. And to be clear, I worked in retail for a long time, so I know how to do it. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just start my own thing. And he's like, that's a good idea. And so I made a plan. I went out, I researched what everybody else did. I interviewed other people, like personal stylists, and found out what worked for them, blah, blah, blah. I traded with friends to test out my theory. And 2 months later, I had a business. And I reached out to my whole community. This is the craziest part. I talked to a money coach about how many clients I needed each month to make what I had made. And she was like, you need 8 full clients a month. And that's I have, smaller packages, but get the big package. And so I'm like, okay. So the first month I sent out the email hey, I'm a personal stylist now. And I just thought, what are people going to say about that? What? And in that first month, I had 8 different people I know reach out and be like, I'll hire you.
Fabulous.
Oh my
I don't
God.
see why they wouldn't, because first of all, you are you, who is so special to begin with, which I ideally love, and also, I mean, just the fact that you exude confidence in what in your styling, and people see that.
Yeah, and that was like a really great lesson to me. Was it just showed how much I already was talking to people about style and this connection I already had. And so kind of when you people often say that other people see you better than you see yourself sometimes, and so it's like, oh, other people saw that in me. And I knew that about myself. I think honestly it just never occurred to me that that was a real job, and I wasn't interested in being in the fashion industry. I want to help people, and this is actually the most gratifying job that I've ever had, much more than anything that I did before.
Absolutely.
So that's actually a good segue. You said that wasn't anything on your mind as a career with the weekends and all these things. So how does your day look like now?
Oh my gosh, my day is amazing now. I am a person who likes a lot of variation. I also like a lot of control. So I'm not a control freak by any means, but I found that like working in bureaucracies, I had a really hard time with like, here's the vision, how can we get there? And it taking so long to get there. So now a day starts out, checking my email, figure out my calendar is for the day. We're bringing on a new stylist. She is here now, so that's very exciting. So I spend a lot of time training her. I interact with clients. I have client sessions, either in person or virtually, and each client session lasts about 3 hours. So they're substantial. So in one day I'll have, 1 or 2, depending what I want that to look like. I respond to like media requests and stuff. This week I was doing a lot of that, and I also spend a huge amount of time volunteering. That's a big part of the brand and my commitment to the community.
Right. Because you don't just, commit to community work just in styling, but you also do with helping with youth care and a lot of different other types of community affairs, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think because my past life is in like all of that, public service, nonprofits, whatever, that it makes it so I end up being a big resource for my clients, frankly, on how to get involved. And so a lot of times people ask me a lot of questions about how to give and how to volunteer and how to do that in a way that works and how to get their company involved. And so I spend a lot of time with those kinds of things too.
So how do you align this, what sounds like a relatively full schedule of work and volunteering? Where's the time for your family and the me time?
Yeah, my family is probably my top priority. I know that's not very feministy of me, I think, probably to say, but that's a big part of why I chose this job. I mean, when I first was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to work retail, it's because I had a toddler, and I was like, I don't want to be away from my child. Like, he's, my family is a big commitment to me. I am really, really fortunate to be married to like the most amazing man in the whole world. And we both he's a designer too. And so we're both really interested in this stuff. And our son, who is now 10, is like that too. So we actually spend a lot of time talking about the business in the car and whatever. And so that makes it so I don't have to have such a harsh divide. I also have been fortunate to make friends with a lot of my clients over time. So there's a lot of ways that things cross over. So it's not so specific. I also don't know that I do anything that's particularly like, this is me time because I feel like I need it, because it sounds like really cliche, but my job is my me time. I mean, I get to engage with people that I love. It gives me energy. I'm rejuvenated. And I get lots of really great authentic feedback from friends who are clients and clients who are friends, so it helps me grow the business.
I mean, that's the great thing about the fact that you are in the business that you love. You love what you do. You love it's like going to work really isn't like working, feeling like it's working at all, because you are actually doing things that help your clients, but at the same time you have enjoyment out of it, which is amazing. I love it. I think that's so great.
Yeah, and I mean, sure, there are parts I hate. I mean, like, I don't want to like get the tax stuff to the CP. I hate that stuff. Like, I'll be honest. But like, even when you get that stuff done, you get the feeling of accomplishment of like, okay, now I've done that. So there's something.
I mean, those are just tiny little annoyances you got to do, right?
But I don't have like traditional hobbies. Like, I like a lot of change and variety. I'm interested in new things all the time, and so.
Oh, I like to hear. Did you all hear that? She doesn't have hobbies.
I don't have hobbies.
I love to hear that, because I don't have hobbies either. So.
And don't you feel pressure to have hobbies?
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean you guys don't have hobbies?
What do you do in your spare time? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, when people talk, like, I remember my neighbor asked me that once, like, well, the kid and then the job, but like, what do you do? What else do you do? And I was like, what else do I need to do? Is my life not full enough for you? You know what I mean? Like. I'm like, I'm very happy with it.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, I think that's just an important point to just point out, because there are people out there who don't really have hobbies. I mean, I have interests.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I read and I work out, but it's not anything I would call a hobby.
And it's nothing I want to do repetitively,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that's what I think of as a hobby, like
Yeah.
something that you want to do every week or every, you know,
Yeah.
I just want variety.
Yeah.
I think of
I'm with you.
I think of everything I do as a hobby. I don't think of it as work at all. Anything, I just think from actually doing work to like running to anything else I do, I consider them all as hobbies.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think for me, I never consider my sports activities a hobby, because then I feel I would need to stick with them. And what I do is just
Oh, I
start
like
something new
that.
every year or
Oh,
something.
that's
Because
right.
it changes your mindset,
yeah,
because then you feel like
yeah.
it's an obligation.
Yeah, or like then you want to stay on track and advance.
Yeah.
And it caters to my competitive side, and that's not helpful in my free time.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's
that's very
interesting.
different.
We are very different that way, yes, for sure. But it's great. So one of the things that we always ask all our guests is that, you know, Koa means fearless. And so we always ask our guests, what is the most bravest thing you've ever done that you can share with us?
Well, I think the obvious approach to that would be the doing this business and just like leaving my job and whatever. But actually, I think the bravest thing I ever done, I moved to Guatemala whimsically to
Oh,
work
wow.
for, in grad school to work for the United Nations on maternal mortality. And
Wow.
I didn't speak Spanish, and I figured it out like a month before I left, and I sublet my apartment, and I
is
just like
so
left.
cool.
And it really made it so everything after that was just gravy. Like once you do something that is so terrifying,
Yep.
then you're just like, oh, I can do anything.
Absolutely. That is so great. That's true, because if
Yeah.
you did something that you didn't think you were able to do, but you did it anyway, after that, everything else is like, oh, if I can do that, I can do everything else.
Yeah,
You know?
that's
Which
how I feel.
is so amazing. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I really feel like I always am saying this. I'm like, everything is achievable. You may not like what it takes to get there. You may not
Right.
like the way, but there's always a way.
Right.
That
I
is
mean,
good.
it might not be worth it for you at a certain point.
you
and
may
that's
look at it
fine
and be like,
too,
I don't
but
want that
yeah,
way.
yeah,
Right.
but-
You can get
yeah.
there.
And with that, actually, the next question actually I have for you, which is, I think it's interesting, is because you're doing what you want, you're doing whatever you feel that is makes you happy, makes you do all these things that you enjoy. Do you really care what other people think about you? I mean, your clients love you, I love you,
Like,
mutual
Really,
friends
here's
love
$5.
you.
I'm like,
I know that's why
everyone
you keep
say
offering.
you
You
love
keep
me.
offering to give me money, but
And it makes it sound like everyone loves me, which is not the case. I definitely need it. I leave an impression. So you love me or hate me. That's the truth. I care that people think that I have like a strong work ethic, or that I care about people, like, you know, for the community kind of thing. Those kinds of things, like my values, I care about. But otherwise, no, I really don't. And that's like the kind of thing where people are like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I actually find it really freeing to just be like, as far as I'm concerned, like whatever is going on with someone, it's worse than you think, or it's harder than you like. COVID, I always
sure.
think no matter what you think somebody has been through, it is worse than you think it was. No matter what you think someone's life is, it's probably harder than it is. And I often just feel like people, this sounds kind of crazy, but I just like people don't care about me. Like it's not about me, it's about them, and like they have their own kind of thing. And my role is to, you know, take care of the people around me and lift people up and make them feel good, but in an authentic way where I don't lie. Like that's another thing about me. I'll just tell you, you know, but
So good.
you don't have to like make someone feel terrible to be honest. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so I think I'm just not particularly concerned with what people overall in general. Years ago, I was in this Microsoft ad campaign, and they sent me the stuff. They're like, okay, the ads are going out, and they're like, but just so you know, don't read the comments. And I was like, oh, it would never occur to me to read the comments. Why would I read the comments? I don't care. Like, and then it was like a real moment where I was like, oh, I guess people care about the comments.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
we probably have all seen that Brené Brown thing where she talks about the really bad negative feedback she got, but how that has led to the research she's done since.
Right.
Yeah.
So good for her that she read the comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general.
I don't
I'm with you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing that we talked of different segments about how not to have other people, what they think or what they say about you really affect you, because at the end of the day, you have no control over what people are going to say.
Yeah, true.
You know, so you just like, okay, well, if I can learn from whatever comments that they make, if they're valid, that's great. Then it's a learning opportunity for me. But if they're saying something nasty, I'm just like, well, it's their problem. So there.
Yeah,
you know?
right. And I mean, and to be clear, you know, when someone is a place of authority or like it's something that like is relevant, like I am obviously open to feedback and constantly like how do you improve. But as far as like the general, do you like me? Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not here to like, my role is not to try to be accepted in every situation and have people like me.
Yeah.
I'm well, like I said, I love you. You don't have to give me $5 to say that.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual. And you're new, but there will be a lot of
I love Mika too.
just to be clear.
No worry.
I'm like, we just met. But,
so funny.
All right. So let me ask you one thing, because a lot of our segments are about those things women in particular struggle with. What are the obstacles you see in your field, in your career, or with your clients? Because I mean, you spend a lot of time with your clients. You know a lot about their struggles.
yeah, I think it's more interesting to hear what my clients struggle with, frankly, than me. I hear a lot of women, it's very common to have something in their mind that is holding them back from how they can express themselves with the clothes, is a comment from someone in their family. It's like their mom or their aunt or there's when they were like 14, she said, I don't look good in this, and therefore I don't look in this forever. And those kinds of things, I think women like are really held back by those kind of comments. Also, there's a real struggle for women, especially in tech. I work with a lot of women in tech, is really trying to find that place where you don't want to feel overdressed at work, and like if you're there with people in hoodies and jeans, but you start to just wear hoodies and jeans and you kind of feel like a slob, and so you don't feel like your best self. And so it's a real challenge for women.
That's the Seattle challenge,
Yes,
especially.
Yeah, so I think those are some of the big ones that I hear a lot.
And especially now with the pandemic, like everybody was working from home, everybody was in their leisure wear or sweatpants or whatsoever. Now that businesses are reopening again, people are starting to go back to work. I know you were just quoted in the HuffPost, in HuffPost, which is fantastic about getting people to go back into the back to work life again. How do they get dressed?
Yeah, and that's a real thing too, that a lot of people have gained weight over the pandemic, and everyone. And it's really just like, how do you go back to work and still feel good? I mean, I think one of the freeing things about the pandemic is I think people stopped caring about that. Like they stopped worrying, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, I have to worry about this. And I think it's a real lesson that like, no, you don't. Like, it's not about what people think, and having this break to be like, I don't feel the pressure from what I think people think about me, and then be able to kind of come from that place of strength and be like, this is who I am, and like, what do I need to make me feel good and make me do well, but I don't need to live my life trying to impress everyone else.
All right. And I think a lot of women just need to hear that they've done an amazing job. For over a year, they had to homeschool and still have their jobs. And I had a lot of friends who had to give up their nice workspace because the husband was the primary earner, needed to take over their office. So basically their business moved to the kitchen table. It's badass.
Yeah,
what you ladies did.
Yeah, for sure.
My son took my office for school, and I mean, frankly, I hibernated my business for a whole year, and that's just what I put. I was like, I'm just in hibernation, and I didn't know if it would come back.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is like, the priority is my family and the community, and like what's going on in the world right now, and it just like wasn't the right time, and that is really hard when you're someone who's a career-minded person, and then to be like, am I a stay-at-home mom now? Is this like, is this it? And it's just like, no, you just gotta stay focused on like, you chose your priorities for right now, and those aren't your priorities forever. And you just focus on them, feel good about it, move on. Like nothing is forever. It's all temporary.
Right. And that's the wonderful thing about women, I think, in general, is that I find that we are very resilient, despite whatever circumstances, and we're willing and able to be flexible and adjust, right? I mean, we can adjust, and that's what you did. That's what we all did, right?
Yeah,
because nobody expected this to have happen, and then we just adjusted, and now things are coming back out. Now we're readjusting again,
And now we're just like so excited we can't stop. Everyone's like, go, vaccination.
I have to get my favorite question in before we wrap.
Yes.
Do it.
What advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
Oh, you know what's so funny? I was driving here and I was thinking about that, and the Smiths came on, which was my favorite band when I was 16.
Aw.
I was on the Cure, but that's the same.
We can talk about the Cure all day. So anyway, the Smiths came on, and I was just thinking about like being my 16-year-old self, and I had a very challenging upbringing, and all I was thinking was get the hell out of here at all costs, and all I was also thinking was that means I need to support myself my whole life, and so I really was always looking at like what's the practical path, like, and I thought I really want to help people, and I want to do something practical like that can feed me, and so I went into like normal career things that you would do, and I think a really important lesson that you can hear from me talking now is that you can make a living doing anything if you work really hard at it, and if you are resourceful and you're diligent and of course there's luck in everything, but also like there's a way, and so there's no reason to like limit yourself. And also, I think the last thing in there is just that I really thought, like, oh, if I want to help people, you have to do that through public service or nonprofits or whatever. And you can help people in any job that you do. You can be an extraordinarily helpful anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you can have an impact no matter what you're doing. And those are just the personal choices you make. So I think there's a lot of that I wish my 16-year-old self had known, just to be free to follow what you're actually interested in.
Yeah. And a lot of 16-year-old selves should have known that lesson, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of should at that
yeah.
age. And of course, your world is still relatively small.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that. I think that's really
that's
so
very
good.
sound
even,
advice.
Even for
Yeah.
someone who's older. There's someone out there who's probably in their 20s and 30s and need to hear that message.
Yeah, you know, I will just say as the last thing, my message for my 20s and 30s very clearly was I felt like I had no direction, and I was always so stressed because I felt like all my friends had a direction. Like they were a lawyer and they were a teacher, and I was like, I don't know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I was kind of all over the place. And then it turned out that that path was the smartest thing I ever did, because that's what made me a great stylist. No matter where somebody works, I've worked there or I've been there, and I know what they wear, and I can adjust to that, and that made me better at what I'm doing now. So I think just like not being so hard on yourself to feel like you need a destination from day one.
That means it's a lot of people get stressed about the fact that when they're younger they think like, what career do I need to have? But a lot of times it's just building blocks, right? You collect experiences along the way that makes you who you are, and with that you take it to do something that you love, and you do something that you do really well in, because you can take all those things and practice it.
Which is exactly what the two of you have done also.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That is so great. Well, thank you, Melissa. It's been so much fun having you here. Love all the stuff, and I know a lot of my friends are already working with you. And if you want to have somebody in your corner who can not just make you stylish in clothes, but overall, you should talk to Melissa.
And check out the show notes. There you'll find all the information where to find her, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Share this video with your friends who need a stylist, and follow us on social media.
And we'll read all those comments. Everyone will read.
Oh,
those.
we don't read those comments.
Oh, yeah, no, like these comments we'll read.
I'll read it. I'll read it.
Take it back.
So funny.
Thank you.
And most importantly, be a leader on your own terms.
Be brave, be coa.
Bye.